All right, welcome to another episode of Powerhouse Conversations. This is episode 41, and today we have a special guest, Ryan Schachtner, from a Must Win. Ryan made Entrepreneurial Magazine top 10 entrepreneurial list, a best-selling author, expert in the athlete personal branding space, NIL engagement, and personal finance for athletes. Hi, Ryan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem, no problem. And we had some great talk beforehand before we got on. So I see you're representing Tennessee today, or
Oh
Roll
yeah.
Tide. I know you had a good weekend. How was your weekend of football?
It was great. Anytime we can beat Florida, which as a Tennessee fan doesn't happen often, we're going to take it and we're going to savor it. And now we go down to Baton Rouge, and then the Tide come up to Neyland, and we're hoping for a big upset that weekend. So
Yep. So tell me how did you become a Tennessee fan? Give me your background. Tell me everything.
yeah, so by marriage, right? I
Okay.
married into it. So I grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up a Badger fan. I mean, growing up in Wisconsin at that time, it was, Barry Alvarez, and he was winning the Rose Bowls and the Big Ten championships, and he was really, cementing that program. The Ron Danes and those type of players were coming through there, and I grew up a Badger fan, moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2003,
Hmm.
got married in 2009, and she happened to go to Tennessee. She took me to a game. My first game was against Florida. That's when
Okay.
Tebow was down there.
Okay.
And the atmosphere just in the tailgate was insane.
Gotcha.
And then, we're going to get into the stadium. We're going down the hill, and you see 100+ thousand people wearing orange just funneling into this stadium. And it was wow, right? I mean, it was
Yep.
next level
Yep.
experience. And then Florida trounced Tennessee. Tebow did his thing like he did
Hmm.
for, 3 or 4 years that he played there.
All right.
And but it was the energy in the stadium. It
Yep.
was, regardless of what happened, those fans were, they were ride or die, and
Yep.
it was awesome. Man. It was just an awesome experience. So it got me hooked, right?
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha. You fell in love with her and fell in love with Tennessee at the same time.
yeah, exactly. And so that's my SEC team, and Wisconsin Bucky is my Big Ten team, and that's how I roll now. So.
No, that's amazing. So tell me how you got into this space that you're in now, like personal finance, NIL, personal branding. Tell me how did a must win start?
Yeah, it's actually really crazy, right? So baseball player going in college, had pro aspirations, but the good Lord had different plans for me. In the last game of my freshman year, I remember it was a beautiful blue sky. We're playing at Illinois, Chicago. You have the Chicago skyline in the background. I go to warm up and my shoulder pops, and it just fell, and it was done. It was a complete. I mean, the amount of damage that was in there was insane. So my baseball career was done. I was never the strongest student because I was going to be a baseball player. So what do I need books for? And so I had to get an internship, and I got
Mhm.
lucky. I got in an internship because of some of the relationships I had through baseball, and it was with a finance company, and I was not the smartest person in the room. I can promise you that,
Mhm.
but I did work harder than anybody else, and I just leveraged a lot of the skills that I learned as an athlete to propel myself to just achieve more than what anyone thought I was going to achieve in that internship. I ended up in the top 10 in the company for that year, and then repeated that for the two consecutive years, and moved down to Charlotte. Graduated, moved down to Charlotte. Didn't know anyone and didn't have a job, and I just said I can't take the winters in Milwaukee anymore, and
Mhm.
I'm out of here. And so
Yeah.
landed in Charlotte, started my own financial planning firm
Hmm.
in 2003, 2004, and then grew that to really, it was one of the fastest growing in the Southeast. And we're, multiple states still have it, multiple states, multiple advisors, and really helping, everyone, right? Business owners to
Hmm.
everyday Americans to even some athletes. And so
Right.
through that time, the athletes, I was always doing the damage control, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they had been with someone that had kind of messed up their finances, and so I was tasked with the duty of getting them right. And
Right.
so take that, and then right before COVID hit, I had a young man reach out to me. He was a basketball player at UNC Charlotte. He was looking for an internship,
Right.
and he was a finance major. And so through the interview, this was right before conference tournaments, and really sharp kid. I mean, super sharp kid, and just got into the dialogue of what are they providing from a financial literacy standpoint at UNCC, which is not a Power Five school, but it's not
Right.
insignificant by any
Right.
means, and it's
Right.
still got a good enrollment and good sports programs,
Right.
and they really weren't doing anything, and they didn't do anything when I was in college, and I guess I was a little taken aback. I thought in I guess 20 years or so since,
Right.
I hate to admit that, man, 20 years since I was in college, I would have thought they would advance that a little bit,
Right.
and they really hadn't, and I don't blame the institutions, right? I mean, they're the coaches are focused on keeping their jobs and recruiting,
Right.
and so brought him on as an intern, and at the same time had arranged for a couple presentations, right? Boot camps,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call it, for the men's and women's team. Well,
Right.
then COVID, shut their conference tournament down, the NCAA tournament down, and through the first couple weeks of quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
we were bored sitting at
Right.
home, and I just started working on this presentation, and
Right.
I had really three goals with it, right? The main goal is it had to appeal to me as a student athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So the kid that's thinking he's not going to need school, who already has it, inked in that he's going to go to the next level.
Right.
How do you reach that kid, make it entertaining, easy to understand, and then easy to implement?
Mm-hmm.
And went to work on that, put a presentation together, sent it to a buddy who ended up sending it to a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And publisher called and they were like, "Hey, we really want to do your book." And I thought it was a prank call at first. I was like, "Hey, I don't have a book. I have a presentation. You got the wrong guy."
Right.
And they pushed a little bit, and so I agreed. All right, if you say it's a book, you're the expert. We'll do a book, and that began then the editing process. And so
Right.
that really through that editing process is really where a must win started to formulate, and really the three areas that we operate in started to really kind of take life, right? So that editing process, I started getting introduced to current and former pro athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and they were quarantined too, so we had a lot of time to hang out and talk over Zoom, and became pretty good friends with some of these guys, and so we were having fairly deep conversations about a lot of topics, and one was the financial piece, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they at the time they had started to introduce me to some schools, so I was doing these financial literacy talks, right? But
Mm-hmm.
part of it was on Zoom. Well, it was all on Zoom, but these kids just weren't engaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just clicked in my head that, hey, this was the same, some of these athletes like Roy Williams, Oklahoma Roy Williams, Dallas
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys, Anthony Tolliver came on and helped write some of the book with me from
Mm-hmm.
his point of view from a pro, and Aurelius Ben, and a lot of these guys,
Mm-hmm.
they had people coming in talking to them while they were in school about finance, yet it didn't always sink in.
Right.
And it's because they were so focused that, they were focused on getting playing time and getting to the next level, and
Right.
which was great, but they also didn't have any money. So what did they care about,
Right. Right. Right.
how to invest?
Right.
I'll deal with that when I actually have money. And
Right.
so we just started nailing down some of these issues, and we said, all right, there's got to be a better way to teach this and make this information available when the kids are ready for it, whether they go
Mm-hmm.
pro or they just get a job after sports. And so
Mm-hmm.
we started putting all of this on and building out custom websites for these schools, which started with financial literacy information, but really blossomed into life skills information. So
Right.
how to use LinkedIn if you're,
Mm-hmm.
to how to network with alumni to get jobs. We have
Right.
former pro athletes talking about their battles with substance abuse and how to get help. Clinical sports psychologists talking mental health type stuff. So just tons and tons of topics. So now we have 140 videos on everything from finance to, I mean, you name it, how to tie a tie.
Right.
And so it's the stuff that people need, and we make it available when they need it, which is whenever. So once you go
Right.
to school somewhere that has this, they have access to it for the rest of their life. And so that was kind of topic number one. But we identified there were some other issues, right? We had NIL going on. Making the information available didn't solve the problem of getting these kids money, right? And so
Right.
about the time where we were launching these sites, the NIL hit, and then 5 days later, my book launched. And so the book, because of NIL and some of the guys that I had come on, hit bestseller. And so for a guy that in school hardly read books, to write a book and have it, it was just pretty cool, right? I made my old English teacher probably turn over in her grave on that one. So.
Right.
Um, so chalk one up for me on that. But
Right.
it didn't solve the issue of how do these kids get money, right? And so
hmm
NIL was in its infancy, and you were starting to see deals happen, and it was largely social media based, and it still is social media based. And so
hmm
you have, really two aspects of that. You have the kids that had the large social media following prior to, like the Livy Dunns and the
hmm
Cavender twins, and they had the following, and they were just the right spot at the right time,
Right.
and they were able to capitalize on it, right? And then
Right.
you have the Bryce Youngs and the quarterback that's at the big school that's going to get a deal because he's the quarterback at the big school.
Right. Right.
And you see that, I forget what is it, Quinn Ewers, I think that's his name, the Texas quarterback now, right? I mean, he was getting the deal at Ohio State
Yeah.
when he was still in high school. So it was literally because he was a highly rated quarterback and he was going to Ohio State that he got it. And
Right.
those were really the two opportunities. And we said, man, I think there's more legs to this than people are giving it credit for. And I started walking into businesses that were coming off of COVID and just asking them what they knew about NIL, and
hmm
they had a general awareness, but not like you and I do, or anybody that
Right.
really follows college sports. And so when I was explaining it to them and I was explaining how they might be able to leverage this, I couldn't even get the conversation done, and they were asking to sign up. They were asking, how much do you charge? I'm going to do it. And so
hmm
good example is we had one of these X Golf, right, which is a local, it's one of these golf simulators where you hit into the
hmm
tarp, but you're playing
Yep.
Pebble Beach or, Kiowa or some of these courses. And I was picking my son up. He had a golf camp there. We're in
hmm
Charlotte. It's 100 degrees with 100% humidity, so you want to do as much inside during the
Right.
summer as possible. And so they had a golf pro there, and the owner happened to be there. And I was just asking him what he was doing from a marketing standpoint. And it was all these flyers that they send in the mail.
Right.
And it's okay, cool. You get 10% off, but is that really worth the money? And it was
Right.
enough, right, that he kept doing it.
Right.
But I just asked him, what if you had a couple golfers, right? You did a long drive contest, you did a putting contest, a chipping contest with
Right.
college golfers, right?
Right.
And they don't have to be from big schools, they can be anywhere. And then you did an outreach to the high school golf coaches, the local clubs, and then the youth golf leagues, of which there's two really big ones in the Charlotte
Right.
area. And they just invited people, right? So you choose a date, you get these kids there, and he ended up doing it, and he spent $900. We had two male golfers, one female golfer. They did the long drive, chipping, putting. I don't even know how much he racked up in drinks and food and all that type of stuff. But he had 150 people that came to his location that didn't know he existed before.
Right. Right.
How do you replicate that if
Right.
you're right? And so we're not talking about starting quarterback on Alabama or
Yep.
Tennessee, right? We're talking about college golfer that
Right.
literally nobody knows of except his family and the people and his teammates, right?
Yep.
And so, and then I started going to more and more businesses, and I just started asking them, hey, what is your goal from a marketing standpoint? What demographic would you
Right.
really like to get in here? and then explaining how they could use NIL to do that.
Right.
And so we started consulting then with small businesses, and that's grown now into large businesses. But at the same time, teaching athletes how to go out and
And
approach a
yep.
business and how to create the awareness. And so it's sales training for these athletes, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so how do you package the conversation so that the business owner can see it, then present the idea, and then close the deal, and then have it go through the right portal, so that it's all compliant, and then go out and
Right.
execute on it, right? And then how do you get referred to other businesses from there? So,
Right.
and so that's just started, so we were showing these athletes how to get money, right?
Right.
And then I was having some of these, late night chats with some of these players, and I just had a question, right? Like when we started off, it just popped into my head. What happens if Saban had to start over in the NIL era,
Right.
right? We were sitting around chatting, and I said, hey, quick question, guys. Let's just say there's only 100 guys on a football team, and 30 of them are going to be scout team. And so they're there to go to school, and they're just happy to get, hit and beat up in practice because they're just part of the team, right? But then you have 70 guys, of which two things, at least one of two things is true, if not both things.
All right.
One, they're trying to get to the next level, so they think they have a shot to play in the NFL. Or even at its simplest, they're trying to get playing time. They have a legit shot at getting playing time, and so they're trying to get better. And they can't, and so that's what their focus is. And because it's a 24/7, 365 sport now, you can't really get internships. You're eating, you're going to class, you still have to have social time, but then your workouts, your game film, and you're doing extra, anything you can do to get on the field. What happens to those guys? Because we know out of the 70, maybe two or three or four if you're at Alabama, right? But
Right.
anywhere else you're at, maybe two are going to get a shot at the next level. And that doesn't even mean they're going to have a long-term contract. That just means they may get league minimum and they're going to be out in 2 or 3 years, right?
Right.
So, but what happens to those other guys? So the 68 that don't make it to get a shot at the next level. And there was a lot of silence. And they said, a lot of these guys just go back to the neighborhood they came from. And with a lot of them, that's not always a positive situation.
Right.
And so it started in my head. I was thinking, how do we fix this, right? How do we get these guys to do something? And it's guys and girls, right? So how do we get all these athletes that are so focused on their sport, even if there's a sport that they're not going to go pro in, they're still so engaged in excelling and making the playoffs and conference championships and national championships. How do we get them to do what they need to do to have success regardless of where that is at the next level? How do we get them to do what they need to do by getting them to do something that they want to do?
Right.
And so I was racking my brain, and I'm like, you know what? We got NIL. Everyone's talking about brand building. What if we wrap this all up and we just do the magician thing, right? And so what I mean by the magician thing is the magician, my kids watch these magicians, and you have the trick is going, the magician wants you to watch this hand,
Right.
but the real trick is going on in this hand,
Right.
But all the focus is over here, and then boom, all of a sudden the rabbit disappears, right? And so how do we do that with brand building so that these kids are getting really teed up to go to the next level? And how do we make it so it's not just let's do the song and dance on TikTok and whatever's trend. It's got to be something of substance, right?
Right.
And so I got together with some guys, and we built out these. It's a personality profile. I think it's more of an awareness assessment, right? So it's an athlete. We built it specifically for athletes. It's meant to drive self-awareness on their strengths, their weaknesses, the job alignment based on their personality. And then we take all that information and we say, hey, based on your personality, based on your strengths, based on all the data that we pull from, the worksheets that we have them do prior, we can create how to post based on their personality. So what I mean by that is you have offensive linemen, right? They're not, you don't see these guys doing the dances or taking interviews after
Yeah.
the game, right? They're more reserved. That's just their personality. And if you tell a guy like that, if you want to build a brand, you have to be camera facing, they're never going to do it. You might get one or two, but you're not going to
Right.
create the consistency that you need in order to build what you have to build.
Right.
And so how do we take their personality and then break out different post types so that they can still build a brand, just do it that in a way that's in alignment with who they are. We target their strengths, right? So how do you showcase your strengths, and
Hmm.
how do you become aware of what those are, and how do you communicate that the right way? And then we show them, these careers that they align with, right? And so this goes back to the group of 68, right? Who think all I am is a football player, all I am is a soccer player, or
Right.
baseball, or whatever. That's all I am. And if I don't make it in this sport, then I just got to figure stuff out, right?
Right.
Well, if we can show them, if I were to go in there and I were to say, hey, you can be a doctor or a lawyer, go get them, they're not going to believe that,
Right. Right. Right.
right? And so, how do we show them that, hey, you know what, I'm not blowing smoke up your butt. You could be a doctor or a lawyer because of this, right?
Right.
And I'm going to show you with data and science on how and it's 92% accurate, how you can be this because of how you're built. You're naturally just like you have some guys that are meant for, you could have this kid that was on the Florida defensive line that was over 400 pounds, right? That we played this past weekend. He's not a quarterback, right? His body, he's built for something, not as a quarterback, right? And so far too often in school, we're trying to force these kids into majors that they just don't align with, so they're not going to be engaged in it and all that. So how do we drive awareness? Then how do we start communicating with alumni and people in those professions so that you can get a snapshot of, hey, what are the benefits of this? What are the first couple of years of this like? So that now, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to study this. It's going to suck for the first 2 years, but then this is what it's going to look like. And
Right.
now you're building relationships, right? And now we have just like I got the internship because of relationships I had through baseball. People get opportunities based on the relationships that they establish. And so we're trying to help these kids, again, do two things, right? We're going to build our brand for NIL, but we're also going to build our brand for whenever life after sports happens. And we're going to make as many connections, build as many relationships, leverage our platform while we have it to do all of that. Do it so that we're creating, and we know who we are, so we're being authentic, and we're communicating it in alignment to our personality. And so we rolled that program out, and I'll tell you what, man, this thing is on fire.
Right.
We had to automate it because we just couldn't do the one-on-one or group.
Right.
So it's automated now, and the feedback on it is insane. And so that got us into a bunch of schools. So I helped my boy Richard Jurgen, who's teaching a master's class down at Clemson. We teamed up and built out a class so that at the master's level. So these kids are literally building their brand, creating it, rolling it out, and learning the finance piece all in that semester. And so it's
Gotcha.
it's the class that if I were going to class, I would want, because it's the practical application of the skills that you're being taught immediately. You're going to see results, and you're going to end the class better than you started it. And so we started doing that and just rolling out to all different schools and conferences and players and all different levels. And so
Yep.
that's how a must win came about, is picking the brain of a lot of these guys and trying to help solve problems that have been problems for a long time, and just try to figure out solutions that actually work. So
No, I love it. I love it. And so I know you talked about the magician trick, right? So how are you able to to simplify the money management and the idea of, like you just said, it's not just social media and you're getting on for the people who don't just love social media. Hey, this is about building your brand and understanding that your brand is there regardless of whether you are playing that sport or you're going to go on to build build a business of your own. Like how do you get them to do that?
yeah, so it's really I don't know. I have a way of simplifying things. So I don't know how I do it, but I just explain to them, right? You're going to try and take advantage of building your brand for NIL. And that, depending on your grade level in school, right? Freshman, sophomore, you have maybe a 4 to 5 year window to take advantage of that.
Hmm.
But we're really, a brand. We've all been building a brand our whole life, right?
Right.
And prior to NIL, we've been building a brand. We just called it something different, and
Yep.
we called it a reputation, right?
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
and the way we communicate now has changed versus how we communicated in the past. And so we communicate through social media, right? So
Right.
all we've done is digitize our reputation. And
Yep.
so what we're doing is we're saying, hey, do you want a reputation that's done after 4 years when you're going to have, 65 years that you're going to have to leverage something? So let's build a reputation that's going to last our lifetime, focus on NIL, but then also allow us to transition very seamlessly to different aspects of our lives. At the same time, we're going to be able to monetize our brand
Right.
throughout that all of those transitions. And so
Yep.
just like, working out and getting good at a sport, it doesn't happen overnight. But
Yep.
you have to, if we can simplify, hey, do this, do these three things, and help them. The biggest thing in building a brand is getting the content, right? So if we can
Right.
boil that down for them
Yep.
and just let them know that you're gonna stink at it at first, right?
Right.
It's gonna take a little bit of time to get used to it, and now, and then over time, you're gonna be able to, take develop 10 pieces of content inside 30 minutes, whereas before it was take you 2 hours, right?
Yep.
And you're
I
just
think.
gonna get better at it. So it's just simplifying the process and explaining to
Yep.
them.
I think that's where the authenticity comes in at, right? Because if they're able to do things that are authentic to them, then that's where it becomes easier and it becomes second nature. Hey, if I'm like you brought up the point about this offensive lineman. Hey, if I like to eat at my favorite restaurant. Hey, I just record me eating at my favorite restaurant, and now I get a deal with my favorite restaurant. This it's as simple as that, and that's the things that these kids and these athletes have to understand and realize. Like, start building partnerships and things that are going to work for you and things that you're already doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. You nailed it. So it's we work with a young lady on the dance team at App State, right? And she was, she's killing it right now. Just implement. She hasn't even implemented everything we talked about, but what is important to her, and what does she really like doing in her off time? Well, one was just reading these fiction books, right? And so you're going to be doing this. So why don't we create posts about these fiction books, right? And with the goal of that's going to appeal to a different market segment, probably a little bit older crowd than what you would get just by being you and posting pictures of the dance
Right.
team and all that kind of stuff. And so, and you can, and it's not just one post about a book. It's, hey, this is the book I'm reading. This is why I'm looking forward to it. There's one post. Now you're, a third of the way done. Oh, this. It's not living up to expectations, or it is, right? You can literally out of that one book get 10, 12 different
Yep.
posts, right? And so, and it's something you're going to be doing anyway, and now you're just communicating it like you and I would be talking about, watching a game. Now we're just doing that, and we're just communicating that
Yep.
on a different platform. And so it's really, once it clicks, it's really really simple. And it's just figuring out then, hey, what platforms are we going to communicate this? What method of posts are we going to communicate this? And then, from a communication standpoint, how am I going to reach out to people? How am I going to do this? Get the strategy together, and then it's really, and then we offer two packages, right? You got it, boom, you're off to the races. Go get it, and then we coach people through. Right now, we're at 100% of the people that we coach have gotten NIL offers.
Gotcha.
100%. And it's because we're teaching them how to reach out, that they now have a brand that appeals to different market segments, right?
Right.
They're strategic in who they reach out to get these deals, They're able to communicate how it all, how teaming up with them through the NIL space is going to benefit the business owner.
Yep.
And then once they start getting money, we teach them, hey, now you have money, you got taxes. Are you getting enough where we need to structure, get yourself set up as a business because of how the tax treatment on this NIL money is?
Right.
Or are you just not making enough to do that? Right.
Right.
And so it comes full circle. We teach them how to get money. We teach them how to set themselves up from a brand or reputation standpoint, how to reach out to people so that you can monetize yourself throughout your life. And then how do you manage the money when it comes in? So
Yep. So I guess what I hear you saying is you have two different sides of the business. You have two different business models. You have one where you you have the education, the digital products that they are able to take and they are able to go run with it themselves if that's what they want to do. And then on the other side, you have a business model where you're on the consultant side. You go help them find a deal, you broker the deal, and you all partner with the deals that come through. Is that correct?
So yes, except we're not an agent, right? And so
okay.
I just teach them how to get the deal. I'll walk them through what to say if they need me to help meet with them, but I don't take a cut of the deal. I'm not an agent.
Okay.
I'm just teaching them the skill and empowering them so that they can go on and hopefully they don't need me.
Gotcha.
They see it a couple times and they're off to the races, and then they can help someone learn it. Right. And so I think if that happens, right, like I think it is right now and like it can, then I just think the whole world's a better place. And athletes are, people don't realize how smart some of these guys are. Right. And I'm having conversations with them, and you have Roy Williams took a company from 15 employees in one state to 2,000 employees in 30 states. Right. Right. That's not a football player, right? Right. He played football, but he had something else working up in that head, right? But they just feel because this is all they've done throughout their life that just pigeonholes them, and that's so not true. Yep. And it's just it's helping. It's really how do we help these guys and girls so that they can transition better, quicker, with better opportunities, so that then they can help people that are coming along. And again, like I said, making the world a better place.
Yeah, I think this is the generation where it's not that these athletes are just athletes. It speaks to, LeBron thing, more than an athlete, right? But they don't have to wait until they stop playing to become more than an athlete. They can be who they are. They are already who they are while they're athletes. So why do they have to wait till they retire to become the person that they are supposed to be? Like they don't have to. They can be that right now, and it is this generation is being empowered to be who they are and to be able to monetize and utilize their skills and their gifts that are not on the court and while they're or field, whatever sport they play, but they're able to be their authentic self and be able to monetize and capitalize on it.
Yeah, while they have that platform, because we all know there were. That platform window is so small. You look at a Tom Brady, right? That's what everyone thinks. He'll play till he's 65 or 70. That's not the norm. Anomaly. That's so abnormal. Yeah. And their platform window is so small that they need to utilize this while they can, while they have. Because even the guys that you have Heisman winners that didn't make it, but 2 years in the NFL. And, if they could have been leveraging that time while they were on campus to start building some of this stuff, maybe you don't see some of the sad stories that happen out of that. They have a business to fall back on, or they have, money to fall back on so that they don't have to worry about, a Hail Mary making it in the league. So
yeah, and then even from the perspective of just from a mental health or just a mental perspective of just seeing yourself as more. So now you don't have those stories, because I think there's two sides of it. It's the financial side, and then when they go broke, they also feel away, right? They feel away about themselves. So if they're able to be empowered while they're playing, I think that that does wonders for them as well.
100%. And and then the assessment that we put them through, and the personality profile, everyone knows, yeah, everyone tries to go in social media. They try and go from unknown to known
Mm-hmm.
overnight. And in
Right.
doing that, what they try and do is they replicate what
They
they
see.
see that's
Yep.
out there, right? And they know that they're not being authentic, and they know that they see the world a little bit different than whoever they're trying to copy.
Right.
But they can't put that in. They can't articulate that. And so if we can give them a way to validate how they see the world, and
Yep.
then show them how to articulate that, and you nailed it, a mental health standpoint. I mean, you get a better mental health from day one in going through that. It all of a sudden it clicks, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I am different, but it's cool. Like, that's how I'm built.
Yep.
And you're able to approach the world that way, and that's just such an empowering feeling.
Yep.
Part of the weight gets taken off your shoulders, and now you can just go out and be you. And now you're excelling even more because that weight's off on the field and
Right.
off the field.
Right. Nope. I love it. I love it. I know we're getting close to our time, so I do have some questions for you that we ask on every episode. What is who is your favorite athlete of all time?
Oh man, I've got to say Jordan.
Jordan. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And my next question is, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of athletes?
Oh, holy cow! I wish I had prep for that. Well, I'd say Jordan. I'd say Jordan and Kobe, and
Okay.
them, because I think they changed how people approach their sports. I'd say Tiger Woods, same thing.
Okay.
For their mental side that they brought to the game, I mean, bananas. It's just
Yep.
bananas. Oh man,
Last spot.
Peyton, man, I go Peyton.
Peyton.
Peyton
Okay.
Manning. Yeah,
I was a
I
big, I
gotta go
was a
my
big Peyton
Tennessee
guy.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Peyton. I love Peyton. I love Peyton. That's good. That's good. Who is your favorite business person and why?
I've got so many.
You
My
can give me a couple.
favorite business person, I'd say I love Grant Cardone because of
Okay.
his boldness, right? And he just goes
Yep.
after it, and the way he transformed his business into a digital business.
Yep.
I think, man, I know you don't want dead air on here. I
No, you're
like
good.
a Ed Milet, because of his authenticity and what he's doing. Um, and then like a Cuban, right? I mean,
Okay.
he's living his dream right now.
Yeah,
He's living his
Cuban.
dream. So
Cuban's my guy. I love Mark Cuban. Well, again, Ryan, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. You can let the people know where to find you, and how to work with you.
yeah, absolutely. Email Ryan at amustwin.com. Instagram is at amust.win. And those are the two easiest ways. We got a website revamp, but otherwise it's www.amustwin.com. And I'm all over LinkedIn. So
Great, great. Again, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation. And I'll talk to you later.
appreciate the opportunity.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.